Stone Cold, the Hellraiser is back!
Here we go! Evolution of the Shield!
John Cena versus the Showstopper!
Hulk Hogan and The Rock in the same ring!
You will never take my place at the head of the table!
Undertaker! On the Hell's Gate submission! Oh my God! What?
My God, Michaels! Just kick Cena's head off!
The Monday Night Wars have come to WrestleMania!
It'll be The Rock! It'll be Austin one-on-one!
Third and five to the Undertaker!
Do you believe in miracles?
The streak is over!
Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to WWE Retro on the WWE podcast on this Friday, November 18th. As I've kind of lost my voice a bit, as up here in Montreal, we've already kind of changed into the winter weather format, if you will. But I'm feeling fine, just a bit loss of my voice a bit, and trying to get that back on the rails. But I am here nonetheless to bring you another retro. And today we are going back to the Ruthless Aggression era for a topic that's been discussed a lot over the years, but one I don't think we've ever really discussed on this show. But I guess, and actually after I think about it, I have discussed it a bit, but not in full depth. And that is the Triple H reign of terror during the Ruthless Aggression era that really went from mid-2002 all the way until early 05, I would say. And as I've discussed on the show before, in the Ruthless Aggression era, specifically on Monday Night Raw, there was a lack of top-tier babyfaces in the absence of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, who both walked away from the company on a full-time basis in early 2003. And in a lot of ways, it was even earlier than that, because Stone Cold Steve Austin obviously walked out on the company in the spring of 2002. The Rock didn't walk out on the company, but left for Hollywood in August of 2002 following his loss to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. And then both of them only returned for a brief period from No Way Out 2003 until WrestleMania 19, which spanned from February to March. So both of them, for all intents and purposes, were gone from the company in mid 2002, and save for a brief month in early 03, they had never returned to a full-time schedule. So in light of that, along with the newly introduced brand split, you had WWE really searching for answers in a lot of ways, who was going to lead them into the next era. And obviously, they fast-tracked Brock Lesnar in a major way. I don't think there's ever been a WWE superstar pushed as quickly and as heavily as Brock Lesnar was from 2002 until 2003. Like, in his first calendar year, a two-time WWE champion, a guy who had defeats of The Rock and Kurt Angle and The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan under his belt. Just absolutely insane how fast and how aggressively they pushed Brock Lesnar. But more so than that, you had them trying to figure out who was going to be doing that on Monday Night Raw. Because Brock Lesnar in September of 2002 became exclusive to the SmackDown brand, along with Kurt Angle, The Big Show, and The Undertaker. And then on Monday Night Raw, you had Triple H. And Triple H was a guy who, in my opinion, was the main antagonist throughout the later years of the Attitude Era. Obviously, in the early years, it was his best friend, Shawn Michaels, and The Rock, before he turned babyface. But Triple H, I would say, from late 99 on, was just a step below The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, but was an antagonist. And more times than not, those two bounced off of Triple H. You had, obviously, The Rock feud with Triple H pretty much from mid-1999 all the way until early 2001. And then you had Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously, come back in late 2000 and have the incredible feud that culminated at No Way Out 2001 in the 3 Stages of Hell match. But Triple H was always kind of left in the background. And Triple H was a guy that I think in a lot of ways is a Hall of Fame. Well, obviously he's a Hall of Famer, but a guy who is a first ballot Hall of Famer, if you will. He obviously isn't on the exact level as Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, but Triple H was still, and is still in my mind, regarded as one of the best of all time, especially when you consider what he meant for the company outside of the ring. Because inside the ring, obviously ring general, hard to have a bad match, could have a match with a broomstick, but you see what he's doing for the company now, how long he's stuck around, the only guy to never walk away from the business. And obviously he's married to the boss's daughter, or the former boss's daughter, now plays a major role in the company, lead of creative at all that. And even before becoming the lead of creative, he played a major role behind the scenes. But it still doesn't change the fact that he was the one constant. And I think that is why during the, quote, reign of terror, it was something more out of necessity. And it was the beginning of something that we came really accustomed to in WWE. And that was the company leaning on Triple H to carry them through uncharted waters. And in early 2002, or I would say more mid to late 2002, we got the first on-screen indication that Triple H was going to lead WWE into the next era.
Triple H here in the WWE are unbelievable, but you know what? They're about to become even bigger.
What do you mean by that? What's in the briefcase is what I'm wondering. Money? He's gonna give me my money. Wait a minute.
Triple H, you may recognize this World Championship because you were the last man to officially wear it. It's been worn by some of the greatest champions in the history of this industry. And now, Triple H, it will be again, because, ladies and gentlemen, your new World Champion, Triple H!
What? Hold up. Now this is an historic moment here on Raw. Triple H has just been awarded the heavyweight championship of the world.
Well, you heard what Eric said. He was officially the last man to wear that championship belt. This is unprecedented, isn't it, Taylor?
It is an historic moment. It is a shocking moment here on Raw. Triple H just awarded the world's heavyweight title.
We've seen a new world champion crowned here in the first 5 minutes of the
You
show.
know, Eric, a lot of guys would come out here and they'd say, you know, God, what an honor, but I really don't deserve this. But then again, I'm not a lot of guys, am I? Because the fact is, you know it, I know it, and every single one of these people know it. That nobody deserves to be the world champion more than me. Nobody should be the world's heavyweight champion more than the game.
So you get Triple H awarded the World Heavyweight Championship, and something I don't know if we've ever seen before, especially to debut a new title, a world title nonetheless. And I'm sure all of you remember when they brought in the Universal Championship in the summer of 2016, and you pretty much had a full-on tournament to determine the new Universal Champion, or the inaugural Universal Champion, ultimately being Finn Balor, and then furthermore being Kevin Owens in a lot of ways. But for Triple H to just get awarded the World Championship, I guess made some sense, as Bischoff and Lawler referred to, or alluded to rather. Triple H was the last guy to physically wear that championship in 2002, before the titles got officially merged into the one undisputed championship. But Brock Lesnar, becoming exclusive to SmackDown, took that title to the Blue brand with him. And you had Triple H kind of become the face of Raw officially here, with becoming the first ever World Heavyweight Champion on the brand, and an exclusive World Champion to the brand. So he holds that title in the early era of Monday Night Raw, of the brand split. And his first major title defense comes at Survivor Series 2002 for the first ever Elimination Chamber match, where he defended the world title against Booker T, Rob Van Dam, Kane, Chris Jericho, and Shawn Michaels. And Shawn Michaels obviously slowly inching his way back into WWE programming in 2002, and he wins the match to become the second ever World Heavyweight Champion. The very next pay-per-view and the very next month at Armageddon 2002, Triple H and Shawn Michaels would collide in a 3 Stages of Hell match where Triple H would be looking to reclaim his World Heavyweight Championship.
Does HBK or the showstopper have enough left to get up now that Triple H is incapacitated? We've talked for years about Shawn Michaels' resiliency, his will to win. And the supreme test is here and now. With a bad wheel, losing blood, having the hell beat out of him in that street fight, Shawn Michaels is just 3 or 4 steps away from getting to the top of the ladder. Can you believe this? That's not even in sight. The comeback after 4 years was extraordinary. And look at this. 3 more steps. He's going to do it. Shawn Michaels is going to do it. He's got it. He's touching his tongue. Oh, what? No! Shawn Michaels taking off that ladder. Going through 3 tables. The table set up by Triple H's advisor, Rick Flair. Breathing. I don't think he's breathing. Shawn Michaels has crashed and burned thanks to the game in that 12-foot ladder. I don't think Shawn is breathing. He's ticking. Triple H doesn't give a damn if Shawn Michaels ever takes another breath, if he ever holds his child, if he ever sets foot in a wrestling ring as long as he lives. The game only cares about himself and being the world champion. He wants to hold. But there he is. It's the beginning of time.
So Triple H, after just 1 month, regains the World Heavyweight Championship. And I think it was a lot to do with Shawn Michaels, personally, why Triple H regained the championship so quickly, because I think it's since come out, and I'll give my credit to my cousin on this, who read Shawn Michaels' book, that Shawn Michaels did not want to be the guy when he returned to WWE in 2002. And if you go look back, this was the only singles championship run for Shawn Michaels when he returned in 2002. He held the world title for all of a month. And besides this, he never held a singles championship all the way until he retired in 2010. So aside from a couple of tag team championships along the way with Triple H when they reformed Degeneration X and John Cena, I believe those were the only 2 times he was a tag champ, he never held the title. And more specifically, never held a singles championship, which I found absolutely crazy. But this opened the door for Triple H, and in a lot of ways, who else were you going to have hold the world title on Monday Night Raw? Like, Chris Benoit was still over on SmackDown, Angle was on SmackDown, Guerrero was on SmackDown, Brock, Big Show, Taker were on SmackDown. You look at Monday Night Raw, you take HBK out of the equation for the reasons I just mentioned. They tried Booker T there. I know there is a very big argument to try and justify why Booker T should have won the championship at WrestleMania 19. I disagree with it. I don't think Booker T was quite on that level at that point, but I could certainly hear the argument. Chris Jericho was a heel. Rob Van Dam, certainly a name that I think deserved consideration. But I mean, given what happened when he finally got the title run in 2006, maybe there's a reason why he didn't get that world championship much sooner. Kane was a guy that I don't think really was a character that really fit that bill to carry a world title, and I don't think that type of character necessarily needed a championship. And then you looked at a lot of guys they really tried to insert into that mix. And you get Scott Steiner, which we talked about a bit last week when we covered the Rumble in 2003, and how that whole push of Scott Steiner was probably the fastest rise and fall I've ever seen in WWE, and just completely crashed and burned. Was one of the more forgettable top baby faces in the company during this era. You have them try and put Kevin Nash in that role, who I did like, but I don't think at this stage of his career, Kevin Nash was the right guy to necessarily dethrone Triple H. And then all this resulted into Triple H holding the world title for 10 months. And it was a very, very long title reign that Triple H had from December of 2003 all the way to September of 2003. December of 2002 until September 2003. So we have a 10-month-long title reign where Triple H takes down the likes of Steiner and Booker T and Kevin Nash along the way. And it comes to SummerSlam of 2003 in the second ever Elimination Chamber match where he defends the World Championship against his own Randy Orton, his fellow Evolution member, Kevin Nash, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, and one Bill Goldberg. And Goldberg was on a meteoric push at this point on Monday Night Raw because they needed him. They needed him in the worst of ways. And he would be the one to end Triple H's long title reign at Unforgiven 2003 when he would win the World Heavyweight Championship, which was kind of apropos, right? Because one of the true WCW guys was the guy to come in and take back that title that was originally born and developed in WCW. So Goldberg comes in, dethrones Triple H, and holds that title kind of poetically all the way until Armageddon 2003, when once again Triple H would be challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship, but this time in a triple threat match with Goldberg and Kane. So in kind of a clunky-ish finish, obviously it's weird. I'm playing this clip. The audio of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler was kind of off on this. It's rare that WWE's audio isn't too great, but as you heard, in a kind of an anticlimactic finish, Triple H regains the World Heavyweight Championship exactly 1 year. Well, maybe not exactly to the day, but pay-per-view wise, 1 year after winning the championship back in 2002. So Triple H once again becomes the World Heavyweight Champion and carries this belt to the Royal Rumble, where he has the historic and legendary Last Man Standing match with Shawn Michaels, arguably, and in my mind, the best Last Man Standing match of all time, in which it would lead to a draw and Triple H would successfully retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Then, obviously, on that very same night, Chris Benoit wins the Royal Rumble match, which leads into WrestleMania 20 for the, arguably, in my mind, the best triple threat match in the history of the company, or in wrestling. I love this triple threat match because it just told such a good story. And obviously, it was a historic end to this portion of Triple H's run as world champion. So obviously not Triple H winning, but in my mind, this was the biggest moment of the Triple H, quote, reign of terror, because it was the ultimate moment to put over a new star. And obviously we know what happened with Chris Benoit on a personal level, but on a professional level, if we take that all away for a second, which we know is extremely tough to do, but in the moment here, and look at this moment in the vacuum, in my mind, during Triple H's run here as world champion pretty much for 18 months straight, save for 3 of those months. This was a huge way to drop the belt and a monumental moment in the company. It was a monumental shift because, like I said, save for 3 months, he had been the same world champion for a year and a half straight. You know, HBK held it for a month, Goldberg held it for 2 months, but all the other months over an 18-month span, Triple H was the world champion. And he drops it here at WrestleMania 22, Chris Benoit, as Raw really gets taken in a new direction. It only took about 7 more months for Triple H to get back, because obviously you have Randy Orton defeat Chris Benoit at SummerSlam that year. And then the very next month, at the very next pay-per-view at Unforgiven, Triple H regains the World Heavyweight Championship. He carries it right until December, where the title gets vacated after a Monday Night Raw match with Edge and Chris Benoit ends in controversy, and it leads to a World Heavyweight Championship match at New Year's Resolution, which nowadays is pretty much day one, and it becomes, or not resolution, Revolution, and it is an Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship, the vacated World Championship, including Triple H, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Edge, Batista, and Randy Orton, with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee. A match in which Triple H, somewhat predictably, becomes the World Heavyweight Champion yet again. He successfully defends the title against Randy Orton at Royal Rumble that very same month, and goes into his incredible build and long-term burning, in a lot of ways, storyline with Batista at WrestleMania 21 to main event the show. And for the second consecutive year at a WrestleMania, Triple H would once again put over an up-and-coming star. And this would be the unofficial end, in a lot of ways, to Triple H's, quote, reign of terror, because he would never hold the World Championship again, and it would take him quite a few years to even hold the WWE Championship again. I think it almost 3 years to regain a world title of any substance. And I mean, the very next year, he challenges John Cena for the WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 22, a match that John Cena wins. And all in all, from September of 2002 until April of 2005, Triple H was kind of the top dog. And I know it got monotonous along the way, but in the process of doing this, he was able to put over Chris Benoit and Batista in consecutive WrestleManias and crowned them the new world champion in a lot of respects. And in an era where there was no Stone Cold and no Rock, and we were not yet quite in the era of Orton and Batista and John Cena, I think Triple H did a pretty damn good job, even if it did become a bit too much of a good thing after, 2.5 years where he felt like the consistent world champion all the time on Monday Night Raw. And it certainly was a welcome change post WrestleMania 21, where he really took a step back from that role. But he still did a great job and helped put over 2 huge wrestlers at that point in order to really kind of put a bow on his run as world champion. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed Triple H's reign of terror, even though I kind of hate saying that because I did enjoy it. But as always, you could get me on Twitter at ADemarco25, if it still exists in a few days. You could get Matt on Twitter at wrestling_audio, and you can email him each and every week for the WWE podcast mailbag. Anyway, guys, enjoy the winter, and I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.